Yes, me and Tara are matching. I put a lot of thought into which pajamas I'd wear today. So I'm thinking everybody's here. Just about everybody's here. So it's really nice that you can join us for the very first Dharma in Pyjamas. And one of the few further forward classes, I'll tell you a little story about how come the pyjamas thing even happened. So what we're going to be doing on these mornings is just a really short half-hour chat about a particular Dharma topic, something that's, you know, a current issue. So the topic for today is hand hygiene as a path to enlightenment. Because here we are in the midst of the outrageous coronavirus world experience, and we have a really deep instinctual incentive, this life preservation kind of instinct. And so looking after ourselves physically has this really strong power. It's not just an intellectual thing. So we can use that power on the path to enlightenment. Also, today's Tara Day. So we've got Tara Puja tonight. And so I thought I'd set up the wonderful white Tara here because white Tara is the Buddha of longevity, of life extending practices, of also the incredible realizations, developing all the wisdoms. So as a way of gazing at Tara and blessing your mind stream on Tara Day, and then all of our hand hygiene as the path to enlightenment is also a life extending practice. So to paraphrase Shantideva, he said, vigilant, I stand guard at the door of my mind. And when the delusions rise up, so do I. And when the delusions relax, so do I. So that's what we can do when we have these really confronting circumstances, and then we have confronting disturbing emotions, then also we can rise up and counter them as a kind of a responsive measure. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche often talks about being able to use everything that we do in daily life, because we have to do them, chores, but also things that we enjoy, to turn them into Dharma. It's in the Gold Prayer Book called Everyday Dharma. And so I think particularly hand hygiene is one of those things that we really want to transform into the path to enlightenment. Because for several reasons. So one of them, so that we don't waste our energy on resentment or on anxiety and fear. There is a lot of energy that we have instinctually to protect ourselves, to protect our life. And so we can use that energy. Also, if you're kind of a bit resentful of, oh, now I have to be super clean, or now I have to be super vigilant about what I'm wearing and where I'm putting my clothes and everything, instead of being resentful, we can really use that as an incredible focus for our practice. Also, anything that we do, a mundane thing, washing our hands, cooking a dinner, if we just do it with a worldly motivation for just washing our hands to stay alive or cooking a dinner just to eat it tonight, the merit or the benefit of that only lasts for as long as that, and then it's over. So pretty much everything that we do, the benefit's really tiny. It's really short term. It's just for as long as that activity lasts, basically, and then it's over. So we've put all that energy in with what benefit? Over in a flash. But not only that, what we're doing, if we are in a situation where we do have fresh water and we can wash our hands, or we do have food that we can prepare, and we just prepare it with a worldly motivation, what we're doing is using up our good karma, and then that's gone. So actually, we use up our merit. And if we do it with an unconscious motivation, then we could actually be creating more negativity, because we're just kind of moseying along with either anxiety or craving and just practicing that. And then that puts down negative karmic seeds. So it's quite fraught. Daily life is quite fraught. We can continue to manufacture our own samsara if we're not careful. So that's why we're doing this class, hand hygiene as the path to enlightenment. So we can set our motivation for these brunches together. And the motivation, the two things, sincerity and intelligence. So like the two wings of the bird. Sincerity, our good heart, and intelligence, developing our wisdom. So while you're setting your motivation with that, I'm just going to check if there's any 2 last-minute people for this morning. No, that's okay. Okay, it looks like everybody's here. Right. So, the coronavirus hygiene, either we're resentful or we're scared, but either way, the whole world's thinking about it all the time, aren't we? It's brought us all really close together. It's a great leveler, rich or poor, homeless, with mansions, doesn't matter. We're all thinking about the same things and experiencing the same emotions. And we have a chance now that our attention is captured. In a way, we can use that momentum to really develop our concentration and our focus. Like Madonna said, it's the great equalizer. Yay, Madonna, that's right. So let's go through the various things that I thought of, how we can do it. 1 last minute check for a last minute person. No, that's okay, good. So the first one is don't touch your face. And isn't that difficult? It's like, oh my God. So what we can do with this one is use it to develop mindfulness, just for starters. So that mindfulness of being aware of the urge to touch your face, which is just automatic. And because there's nothing stopping us, most of the time we just do it and we kind of alleviate the itch and we don't think anything of it. But what we're doing is we're playing into the urge to relieve discomfort and then relieving the discomfort. And because we can, we think everything's sweet. We think it's okay. While we can scratch our face, we are under the mistaken kind of assumption that samsara is kind of working out okay. It's only when we can't scratch our face that we recognize there's a problem. So actually, developing the mindfulness to not scratch the itch is part of, it's a really concentrated meditation experience, that we notice the urge to itch, and we've got to have that awareness to be aware of that in the first place. And then we go, oh, I've got an itch, and then just hold everything, just sit with it. The way that I sit with it is I go, how interesting. What does that itch feel like? So what you're doing is you're putting a bit of a gap between the sensation and the urge to do something about it and acting on it. And you're trying to lengthen that gap. So, got to scratch my face. Oh, that's an interesting sensation. How intense is that? Whereabouts am I feeling it? What's it actually feel like anyway? Well, let's just sit with that for a moment and see what happens. And so then, naturally, if you don't actually act on it, that sensation will naturally subside. And so, as Corey Jackson says, neurologically, if then, once the sensation has subsided, then mindfully we touch our face, what we're doing, if we do actually like have a bug on our face or something, and see, I just did it just then. What we're doing is creating some space. And if we do that, it is directly transferable to our emotional state. So we get, we have a sensation of anxiety wash over us, and immediately we try and alleviate it. And that actually just makes it tighter and tighter. But if we develop the habit of just sitting with it for a moment, it slows the process down and the anxiety will alleviate. So as part of the #1 first technique to go to with overcoming any experiences of anxiety, stress, depression, discomfort, restlessness, all of those things, that's #1 option to go to. So how amazing. Here we have this built-in exercise to do every day to be mindful, don't touch your face. And when you do, to do it on purpose. Okay, so a little comment from Robin. Right, thank you. Then the next one, washing your hands. So this one, we can think, I've washed my hands of samsara. So not just the suffering part of samsara, but the causes of samsara. Because everyone has renunciation for suffering. No one has renunciation for the causes. That's why we're still stuck. So as we're washing, we're thinking, not just may I wash away all the suffering of sentient beings, but the causes of the suffering. All of those disturbing emotions and the ignorance. And just like with purification, we've got to do it continuously, because even if we get rid of this bunch of viruses, we do stuff and that other bunch of viruses ends up on our hands too. So purification is a continuous thing, and that's why it works. Washing our hands is a continuous thing, and that's why it works. So by the way, they say at least 20 times a day, wash your hands. It's a lot, isn't it? Shanti Day would probably say at least 20 times a day, do purification. And then we won't experience all the suffering results. Then wiping surfaces. So we have our cloth, our wipe of whatever. And as we're wiping a surface, so one thing that we can think about that is, whatever comes into our hands, may we investigate its provenance. Where does it come from? Who says? Is it valid? Is it legit? So it's a really good habit to have so that we don't become gullible. The other thing that we can do with wiping the surfaces is, may we wipe the confusion from our own mind and the minds of all sentient beings. So by me wiping this surface, may I wipe away all of the distorted states of mind, all of the ignorance. May I wipe this away for all sentient beings to reveal their clarity. And may I become completely free of that confusion, and may I free all others. So actually with wiping surfaces, we can incorporate the 3 principal aspects of the path just into that one thing. So one of them, when we're wiping a surface, say wiping our phone, you're holding it. So you go, may I really get a handle on renunciation. You know, I don't like this situation. What I don't like is not just suffering, but all of the causes of suffering, the whole thing of samsara. Then, when you're wiping it, wisdom. May I be able to develop the perfection of wisdom, and may I lead all sentient beings into that state of wisdom as well. And because we've got to be really vigilant and wipe all of the surfaces, may we do so for all of the sentient beings without missing out anyone. So you can kind of squish in the 3 principal aspects of the path there. Another one, like if you're wiping the surfaces of handles, may I get a handle on it? Literally, you can be a bit corny because you remember it. When you're wiping the surface of a light switch, may I be able to bring the wisdom of the Dharma to everybody. without exception. What else? Aha. Then putting on our protective clothing. So when we put on our protective clothing, we're protecting body, speech, and mind, and we're protecting ourselves, but we're also making sure that we're protecting others by making sure that we don't become a source of contagion. So this is an incredible analogy for the disturbing emotions. When we are overwhelmed by our negativities, by resentment, by fear, by cynicism, by just chucking an internal tantrum, all of those things, we're contagious. So like Robin was saying about mirror neurons, if we're angry, the normal unconscious response that everyone has to us is anger back. So we don't want to be a source of contagion. So yes, Dharmarama, thank you very much. That's a good one. So this is my Dharmarama for protecting body, speech, and mind. So a little something I prepared earlier. So we have our protective clothing, protecting the body. So here's my Dharma Armor for making sure that all my actions benefit others, and if I can't benefit them, at the very least, they don't harm. So we've got three parts of it. One is, may I be protected. The other is, that way may others be protected. And then Rinpoche, because it's a Mahayana thing, he adds in the third thing, it's really important. And may I be the one to lead everybody to that protection. So oneself, others, and may I be the one to lead them all the way to the protection, the complete protection of liberation, enlightenment. So that's body. Now, speech. I hope you can hear me. So here's my little amazing, I call them gas masks, but they're not. They're protective masks. So here we are, to protect my speech. May I protect myself to not breathe in the toxins. May I not breathe them on to anybody else. And may I be the one to lead everyone to the perfecting their enlightened speech. And then, because this doesn't have a nose clip, it's quite good underneath on the chin, but a little bit of air comes up on the nose clip. So it's got to be a really good seal, doesn't it? So then glasses. So this is mind, body, speech, mind. So may I have the wisdom eye. May I protect my vision to keep it as an enlightened vision, a vision that encompasses all sentient beings. And may that way I protect all sentient beings, because I am responsible for the welfare of all sentient beings. And may I be the one to lead them to the blissful enlightenment of a completely purified body, speech, and mind. There we go, that's right. A lot of the virus is expelled through the mouth, through speaking, correct. So I think the Australian government, this is personally my opinion, so don't quote me, but I think the Australian government didn't want anybody to wear masks because it would cause panic. And also because Aussies don't like to stand out. I figure I've got pink hair, I already look outlandish enough. No one's going to notice whether I have a mask on or not. But it's to protect others. So actually it's quite a skillful mean, because if you're wearing a mask, everyone's going to think, oh, they're sick, and they'll stay away from you. So already you have your protective shield. And if you've set it as a Dharma motivation, that by people, whatever response they have to you, may it connect them to the Dharma. You're like the intermediary, that whenever they see you, they're also seeing the Dharma. So then whatever response they have, good or bad, you know, positive or negative, recoiling or not, they've had a connection, and that's what's going to really work. See you, Naomi. See you next time. So, okay, so that's protecting body, speech, and mind. Then social distancing. So social distancing equals mental closeness. That's how we can think about it. And this is what Lama Yeshe said about if we ever have problems with people, that generally what we tend to do is we just close our heart down, but we might have to still interact with them every day. So we just get walled off, disconnected, then we feel alienated. And a lot of people, because we have social distancing, are kind of cognitively fusing with this, and also feeling mental distance. Doesn't have to follow. Every time that you do social distance, what you can be doing is thinking, this way I'm looking after you. So in your heart, you become closer. So a really nice way to think about this, just like when we greet others and we bow with our hands in the prostration mudra, and it's like my Buddha potential salutes your Buddha potential. So as we stand back and create some space, we can think, as I'm creating this space, I'm recognizing the Dharmakaya nature of your mind. So by literally creating space, you're remembering that ultimate spaciousness of the Dharmakaya. And then you're relating to their Dharmakaya, pure, beautiful nature. And so social distancing equals mental closeness, closeness with the heart. Oh, that's right. So, and as Lama Yeshe said about, you know, if we do have problems with people, actually what we should do is physically keep them distant, mentally make them even closer in our heart. Then I'm just going to take these little hot gloves off. The last one, if we're in social isolation. So there is a whole section of the Buddhist community that's gone, yay, now I get to have a sponsored retreat. Because we have these, you know, relatively an incredible social safety net here compared to many other places in the world. So social isolation is where we can come back to Shantideva, you know, vigilant, I stand guard at the entrance to my mind. When the delusions arise, so do I. When the delusions subside, then I relax. So here we are, if we're in social isolation, then we're standing guard to make sure that we don't contaminate anyone. So rather than just having it to do with the body, and then that merit only lasts for as long as the coronavirus lasts, maybe just a few months, even if it's a year or two, it's still in the scheme of the universe a flash. It's a total waste of all that effort. So instead we can think, as I am socially isolating, may I never contaminate sentient beings with my disturbing emotions. And just like we know the virus isn't us, we can also recognize our disturbing emotions aren't us either. Your disturbing emotions are not you. Who are you? The beautiful innate purity of the Dharmakaya. So what we're doing with social isolation is making sure that we don't contaminate anybody else, that we're practicing to not contaminate others with the disturbing emotions. And how amazing is that? And then as you're standing guard at the door of your mind, then you can enjoy your mind. You can get to know your mind. How extraordinary. So that's the end of the things that I thought of for hand hygiene as a path to enlightenment. I have a little poll. Okay, well, in that case, I'm just going to read out the questions, and you can let me know which is the one that resonates with you the most. So which is the one that you'd be focusing on the most this week? And so there's 1, 2, 3, there's 5, I'm not so good with numbers. Okay, developing mindfulness to not touch your face. Washing hands to wash the suffering of the world. Wiping surfaces to wipe away the afflictions. Protecting body, speech and mind with gloves, mask and glasses. Or I'm in isolation and enjoying my sponsored Hashtag Corona retreat. Liesl, which one are you clapping at? Corona retreat, great. So I'm not on whatever that thing is that has the hashtags, but oh, please, can you get that started? It'd be so good. I think it'd be a hit in the Dharma world. Oh, great, excellent. So I'm just going to end the polling because no one's voted and I have to figure out why. That's so weird. Body, speech and mind to protect myself and others. That's right. So it really shows if you have the Dharma to rely on, how fortunate we are that when we are thrown into the company of ourselves, we're not freaking out. What an incredible resource we have that we didn't even know that we had. Okay, so I saw some photos on Facebook of people isolating around the world in horrible situations. We can be so grateful for our beautiful conditions. That's right. So that was one of the other classes that we'll have on this Dharma for Pyjamas, that, you know, we might think this is a terrible thing that's happening, and group karma, it is, but it's not inherently terrible, because one thing we have to really recognize with group karma is what extraordinary group karma do we have, that we have all of this at our fingertips, that we have the Langri Center group karma even, to be able to share a class online just like that. I mean, the causes for that must have been sharing the Dharma with others over and over and over again and making it incredibly easy, and it, you know, all of that, and now we get the benefits of it. It just blows my mind. So every time you think about how terrible, also what's even stronger than that is how amazing this group karma is. Like the Langri Dharma Center community just must shine with merit. So are there any other questions or comments or any other hygiene activity that we could transform into the path to enlightenment? Ah, coughing. Oh, yes. Okay. So coughing into the elbow, coughing into a tissue, into your clothes, but then you have to be very careful that you wash those clothes, those pajamas. So coughing again is it's like a instinctual purification. So when we cough, I mean, one of the good things, if you cough, you've got to spit out whatever you're coughing. Don't swallow it. So that's just a hygiene thing. A bit gross, but that's a good one for purification. As you cough up those negativities, don't hold on to them. Let them go. So that means when you recognize that you've done something unskillful, instead of just going over it again and again and again and feeling worse and worse about yourself, recognize it, get rid of it, and then go back to relating to a much more healthy self, a much more healthy identity. Yes, you feel like a leper when you cough in the supermarket. So that's one of those things that it triggers everybody's fear and anxiety. And so one, great, that means I'll stay away from you. Two, you can use that to trigger your compassion, that every time they recoil, you go, oh, poor humans, they're so fearful. Like no one's going, oh, are you okay? They're all going, oh, get away from me. So poor humans. So one thing is you by appearing as a leper in people's eyes, it's your protection shield. Fantastic. Don't take it personally. It's okay. That in itself is a good practice, because so much we rely on the response of others for our own sense of whether we matter. So when people don't acknowledge us, we feel like we're disappearing. When people acknowledge us in a negative way, we feel like we're bad. It doesn't necessarily follow. So actually, when people acknowledge us in a negative way, we can recognize their fear and develop compassion and just be kinder and slower. So the good thing about my my mask is it's see-through, and I can kind of do a bit of a smile, and they can tell what's happening. Okay, so what we can do, dedicate the merits, dedicate our sincerity and our intelligence, and really look forward to putting this into practice for the coming week.